Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah, and it's truly an honor to share my story with you today. This isn't just a tale of weight loss, it's a story of rediscovery, of battling hidden frustrations, and ultimately finding a path to freedom. If you've ever felt stuck, if you've looked in the mirror and not recognized the person staring back, then I believe my experience will resonate with you. I remember my 20s so vividly. It feels like a different lifetime sometimes. I was a whirlwind of energy, always on the go, often juggling multiple part-time jobs while finishing my degree. Sleep was something I could catch up on over the weekend, and my metabolism, well, it seemed truly invincible. I could enjoy late-night pizzas with friends after a night out, grab quick drive-through lunches between classes and meetings, and still maintain a lean, energetic physique. My clothes fit perfectly, effortlessly. I could throw on a pair of skinny jeans and a fitted top and feel absolutely fantastic, without a second thought. There was a lightness to my step, a natural confidence that came with feeling comfortable and strong in my own skin. I remember hiking trails on a whim, dancing for hours without tiring, and never once worrying about how I'd look in a swimsuit on a spontaneous beach trip. My body was simply there for me, a reliable, effortless companion. But then, as life often does, it began to shift. The vibrant, carefree energy of my 20s slowly, almost imperceptibly, gave way to the more demanding realities of my 30s. My career took off, which was wonderful in so many ways. The promotions, the recognition, the sense of accomplishment. But with that came longer hours, more stress, and less time for myself. My days started earlier and ended later, often involving quick, unhealthy desk lunches and late-night calls. The mental load was immense, and my coping mechanism often became food, not out of hunger, but out of a desperate need for comfort after a taxing day. A quick drive-through on the way home seemed like the easiest solution, or ordering in a rich, comforting meal. My vibrant social life, which once revolved around active outings and dancing, transitioned into cozy evenings at home. Don't get me wrong, I cherished those quiet nights, but they often came accompanied by large portions of pasta, a glass or two of wine, and hours spent on the couch. Sleep, once a natural rhythm, became a luxury, often interrupted by lingering work thoughts or the sheer anxiety of the day. I'd toss and turn, rarely feeling truly rested, waking up groggy and already behind. The gym, once a place I genuinely enjoyed for the sheer endorphin rush, transformed into another chore I felt too exhausted to tackle. It was easy to justify skipping a workout. I'm too tired. I'm too busy. I'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow rarely came. It wasn't a sudden change. You see, it was insidious. A slow, almost imperceptible creep, like sand slowly filling a once empty glass. First, it was just a little tightness in my favorite jeans. I'd shrug it off, blame the dryer, or perhaps just a bloated day after a particularly indulgent weekend. Then, I started noticing it more clearly in photographs. My face seemed fuller. My once defined jawline softened. My waist, which used to be my proudest feature, was thicker. My once flat stomach now had a noticeable pooch, especially after meals, making me subtly try to suck it in all the time. And then came the dreaded love handles, those annoying bulges that spilled over my pants, making me feel self-conscious every time I sat down, constantly adjusting my shirt to cover them. The numbers on the scale started to tell a story I didn't want to hear, but couldn't ignore. 5 pounds here, another 10 there. It accumulated so subtly that by the time I truly registered it, I was staring at a reflection that felt foreign. This wasn't me. This heavier, less energetic version was not the Sarah I knew. It was like I was slowly losing myself, 1 pound at a time. The lightness in my step was gone, replaced by a dull heaviness, both physically and emotionally. Simple acts, like bending down to tie my shoes, felt slightly more effortful. Climbing a flight of stairs left me a little more breathless, It wasn't just my clothes that felt tight. It was my entire sense of self. I was becoming a stranger in my own body, a prisoner of my own frustrations, exhausted by the constant, unseen battle I was waging. Of course, like anyone determined to regain control, I didn't just stand by and watch the numbers on the scale climb or my reflection morph into someone unfamiliar. The moment I truly acknowledged the shift, a surge of determination, mixed with a healthy dose of panic, washed over me like a cold shower. This wasn't the path I wanted to be on. I missed feeling light, energetic, and confident. I missed the ease with which I used to move and the sheer joy of living in my own skin. So, I decided with every fiber of my being to take action. My first thought, ingrained in our cultural consciousness as the primary solution to weight gain, was the classic formula diet and exercise. I remember waking up on a Monday morning, a sense of grim resolve settling over me like a heavy blanket. This was it. No more excuses, no more indulging. This was the day I took back my body. Truly. My initial approach was fueled by a desperate desire for quick results, which, looking back, was my first significant misstep and consistently set me up for disappointment. I dove headfirst into the world of trendy diets, lured by the dramatic before and after photos I saw online and the siren songs of rapid weight loss promises. First, it was the keto diet. I was meticulous, bordering on obsessive, tracking every single gram of carbohydrates, protein, and fat. My kitchen transformed into a laboratory of measuring spoons, digital scales, and endless food logs. I said goodbye to bread, pasta, rice, and even many fruits, as if they were toxic enemies threatening my progress. For a while, I did see some initial success. The scale dropped a few pounds in the first week, which was incredibly motivating and made me believe I had finally found the answer. But, with hindsight, I now realize a significant portion of that was likely just water weight. The intensely restrictive nature of keto quickly started to impact my social life in ways I hadn't anticipated. Dinner with friends became an exercise in awkward explanations about why I couldn't eat anything on the menu, or why I was bringing my own prepared meal. Even simple things like grabbing a quick lunch with colleagues became a logistical nightmare, always searching for a place that could accommodate my specific dietary needs. I constantly felt like the odd one out, the person with the complicated dietary requirements, which only served to make me feel more isolated. And frankly, I missed so many foods I loved. The comforting warmth of a slice of artisan bread, the juicy sweetness of a ripe peach in summer, the simple pleasure of sharing a large bowl of pasta with loved ones. Beyond the social awkwardness, the constant restriction took a severe toll on my mood and energy levels. I felt perpetually hungry, often irritable, and just plain bone-tired, no matter how much sleep I managed to get. My focus at work suffered dramatically, and even simple tasks felt like they required immense mental effort. After a few weeks of this intense restriction, I'd inevitably slip up, a moment of weakness, a craving I couldn't ignore, which would be followed by a crushing wave of guilt and self-recrimination. And once I fell off the wagon, it felt almost impossible to get back on track. The cycle was utterly demoralizing, a constant, painful reminder of my perceived lack of willpower and repeated failures. Next, I ventured into the realm of intermittent fasting. The idea of restricting my eating to a specific time window seemed appealing in its simplicity and promised a way to manage calories without constant counting. I started with the popular 16-8 method, aiming to skip breakfast and condense my eating into an 8-hour window in the afternoon and evening. The mornings were an absolute struggle. My stomach would rumble incessantly, a constant, distracting noise, and my concentration plummeted, making it nearly impossible to focus on complex tasks at work. By lunchtime, or rather, by the time my eating window finally opened, I'd be so ravenous that I'd often overeat, compensating for the missed meal with an even larger one in the afternoon. This led to a feeling of overwhelming fullness and lethargy right when I needed to be productive. My energy levels were incredibly erratic, swinging from sluggish and lightheaded in the morning to overly full and drowsy after my large afternoon meal. And just like keto, while I might see some initial weight loss, it would inevitably plateau, leaving me feeling stuck and frustrated once again. The constant mental gymnastics of always thinking about when I could and couldn't eat also became utterly exhausting. It felt like my entire day revolved around food, even when I wasn't eating it. Exercise became another intensely frustrating battleground. I invested in a new gym membership, full of renewed enthusiasm each time I restarted, only to see that enthusiasm wane as the weeks went by with little visible progress in those stubborn fat deposits. I'd dutifully hop on the treadmill, trying to zone out as I walked or jogged for miles, feeling like a hamster on a wheel, running endlessly, but going nowhere. I tried the elliptical, pushing myself until my lungs burned and sweat poured down my face, but still seeing no discernible change in my silhouette. I even bravely ventured into the intimidating weight machine area, feeling awkward and unsure of what I was doing, often feeling self-conscious amongst the more seasoned gym-goers, desperate for guidance. I even hired a personal trainer for a few sessions, hoping they held the secret key, the magic bullet to unlocking my body's potential. They put me through grueling, intense workouts, pushing me to my physical limits until my muscles screamed. I'd leave the gym feeling sore, exhausted, and utterly depleted, convinced that this time would be different, that my efforts would finally pay off. I diligently logged my workouts on my fitness tracker, celebrating every calorie burned, every minute spent sweating, every tiny achievement. I was disciplined, truly committed, dedicating hours each week to grueling workouts, sacrificing precious free time and what little energy I had left. But the results, especially in those deeply frustrating areas, my lower belly and those persistent love handles, were minimal, almost non-existent. It was like they were impervious to my efforts, clinging on with an infuriating tenacity. My arms might feel a little firmer, my legs a bit stronger, my overall cardiovascular fitness might have improved ever so slightly, but those visual markers that truly bothered me remained stubbornly unchanged. It felt incredibly unfair. I'd sweat until I was drenched. I'd ache in muscles I didn't even know I had. I'd deprive myself of foods I enjoyed, only to look in the mirror and see almost no discernible difference in the areas that chipped away at my self-esteem the most. The frustration wasn't just physical, it was deeply emotional and began to consume me. The endless cycle of hope followed by crushing disappointment started to wear me down to my very core. I began to resent the entire process, the planning, the sacrifices, the sheer effort with so little reward. What was I doing wrong? Was my body somehow broken? Was I simply genetically predisposed to carry this extra weight, destined to a life of feeling uncomfortable and self-conscious? The self-doubt gnawed at me, whispering insidious lies about my willpower and my worth. I started to compare myself relentlessly to others, scrolling through social media, seeing seemingly effortless transformations and flawless bodies, and wondering with a painful pang of envy why it was so incredibly hard for me. This wasn't just about my physical appearance anymore. It was deeply impacting my mental well-being. My confidence plummeted in all areas of my life. I stopped buying new clothes, opting instead for loose-fitting, shapeless garments that did little to flatter my figure but effectively hid the parts I disliked most. I started avoiding social events, making endless excuses to stay home, fearing judgment and feeling exposed in crowds. Even simple, everyday activities, like bending down to play with my nieces and nephews, felt more tiring than they should, a constant humbling reminder of my lack of energy and the physical burden I carried. I felt trapped in my own body, a prisoner of my own frustrations, exhausted by the constant, unseen battle I was waging against myself. It was a dark, isolating period, and I knew, deep down, that something had to change, but I just didn't know what. One particularly low evening, after yet another frustratingly unsuccessful diet attempt and a dispiriting workout that left me more defeated than energized, I found myself scrolling mindlessly through a health forum, I wasn't actively looking for a new solution anymore. Honestly, I was just seeking some shared commiseration, some comfort in knowing I wasn't the only one struggling so intensely. But then, a phrase, almost buried in a long thread, caught my eye: metabolic slowdown after 30. Underneath it, bolded, was something about mitochondria. Intrigued, and with nothing left to lose, I clicked. The article that popped up wasn't flashy or filled with marketing jargon. It was surprisingly academic, yet written in a way that slowly, carefully, began to demystify something profoundly important. It explained that as we age, especially past 30 or 35, our bodies naturally start to produce fewer mitochondria, and the existing ones can become less efficient. It painted a vivid picture of these tiny organelles, describing them as the powerhouses or energy factories of our cells. Imagine billions of minuscule, bustling factories inside every single cell in our bodies, diligently converting the food we eat and the fat we store into usable energy. They're the engines that keep us going, the furnaces that burn fuel. When these factories are abundant, robust, and working well, our metabolism hums along efficiently. We burn calories and fat effectively, even at rest. But if these factories are few in number, or if the workers within them are sluggish and inefficient, our bodies become poor fat burners. It's like trying to power a large city with only a handful of old, sputtering generators. No matter how much fuel you put in food or how hard you try to make the city run exercise, if the generators aren't working optimally, you're going to have an energy deficit and a buildup of unused resources, which, in the body's case, translates to stubborn fat. This scenario, the article explained, often leads to persistent weight gain, even with strict diets and rigorous exercise. It was like a massive, blinding light bulb switched on above my head. A wave of clarity, mixed with a profound sense of understanding, washed over me. This wasn't about willpower. This wasn't about me failing. This was about a fundamental biological process within my own body that I hadn't even known existed. My body wasn't broken in the way I had thought. It was just under-resourced. It made so much sense. All those hours in the gym, all that careful eating, was like trying to run a huge factory with too few workers, or workers who were exhausted and inefficient. No wonder I wasn't seeing results in those stubborn areas. My internal fat-burning machinery simply wasn't operating at full capacity. It wasn't my fault. It was my biology telling me it needed a different kind of support. I immediately plunged headfirst into a rabbit hole of research, consuming every bit of information I could find. I spent hours, sometimes late into the night, reading scientific abstracts on PubMed, a database of biomedical literature, watching documentaries on cellular health, listening to podcasts featuring leading experts in longevity and metabolism. I learned about the intricate connection between mitochondrial health, energy levels, metabolic efficiency, and even overall vitality. I discovered how crucial these tiny organelles are, not just for weight management, but for cognitive function, immune response, heart health, healthy aging, and even the health of our skin and joints. It was empowering to finally understand the why behind my struggle, to put a name to the invisible force that seemed to be working against me. This newfound knowledge brought a fresh wave of hope, a feeling I hadn't experienced in years, but it was also mingled with a healthy dose of caution. I'd been burned before by quick fixes, by flashy diets, and by empty promises from supplements that just didn't deliver. I understood that I needed a solution that was truly grounded in this scientific understanding of mitochondria, something that genuinely addressed the core issue of cellular energy and metabolic function, not just the superficial symptoms of weight gain. My past experiences taught me that throwing more effort at the same problem wasn't the answer. I needed a smarter approach. It was during this intense research period, when my mind was buzzing with information about mitochondria and my body was still yearning for a breakthrough, that my close friend, Emily, reached out. Emily and I had been friends since college, and she had seen my struggles firsthand. though I rarely talked about the depth of my frustration. She had embarked on her own wellness journey a few months prior and, sensing my newfound interest in metabolic health, casually mentioned something that immediately caught my attention: Mitolyn. Initially, I was skeptical. Of course, my internal alarm bells went off. Another supplement, I thought. Another fleeting promise. But Emily wasn't one to jump on fads. She was pragmatic, detail-oriented, and genuinely invested in sustainable health. She explained that Mitolyn was specifically formulated to support healthy mitochondrial levels. Drawing on the very concepts I had been researching, she described it not as a miracle pill, but as a catalyst, something that could help my body do what it was designed to do more efficiently. She patiently walked me through what she had learned. Mitolyn, she explained, was a natural blend of 6 exotic nutrients and plant extracts, chosen specifically for their roles in supporting mitochondrial biogenesis, the process of creating new mitochondria and enhancing the efficiency of existing ones. She talked about ingredients like Maqui Berry, rich in antioxidants, and Rhodiola, known for its adaptogenic properties. She mentioned Haematococcus, a unique algae packed with Astaxanthin, and Amla, a fruit abundant in flavonoids. Even Theobroma cacao, a superfood overflowing with epicatechin, and Schisandra, with its calorie-burning compounds, were part of the blend. As she spoke, I felt a growing sense of recognition. Many of these ingredients were things I had briefly encountered in my own research as beneficial for cellular health, but I hadn't known they could be combined in such a targeted way. What truly resonated with me was her emphasis on its natural, plant-based ingredients and the rigorous standards it met. Emily highlighted that Mitolyn was non-GMO, easy to swallow, non-stimulant, and non-habit forming. Crucially, she pointed out that it was proudly manufactured right here in the USA, in an FDA-registered and GMP-certified facility. She also explained that each ingredient underwent third-party inspections and quality control for purity and potency. This wasn't just another generic supplement. It seemed to be a product built on the very scientific principles I had been exploring, with an emphasis on quality and transparency. It felt like a truly credible, targeted approach, not just a blanket solution. After several thoughtful conversations with Emily, and my own independent verification of some of the claims and the science behind the ingredients, I decided to take the leap. The initial cost felt like an investment, but compared to the money I'd already wasted on gym memberships I barely used, trendy diet programs, and countless ineffective supplements, it seemed like a worthwhile gamble. Besides, Mitolyn offered a generous 90-day, 100% money-back guarantee. If it didn't work, I had nothing to lose but a little time. This felt different. This felt like a targeted approach, addressing the root cause, not just the symptoms. I ordered a supply of Mitolyn, a mix of apprehension and a fragile new hope fluttering in my chest. I started taking 1 capsule of Mitolyn daily with a large glass of cold water, exactly as recommended. I consciously decided not to make any drastic changes to my existing healthy eating habits or moderate exercise routine. Instead, I wanted to see if Mitolyn could truly amplify my existing efforts, addressing that underlying metabolic bottleneck I had learned so much about. I also made a conscious effort to practice mindful eating, really savoring my food, listening to my body's hunger cues, and prioritize getting better sleep, recognizing that these were also important pillars of overall health that I had neglected. I knew this wasn't a magic bullet that would allow me to abandon all discipline, but rather a powerful partner in my journey. The first few weeks were subtle. I wasn't expecting miracles overnight, and Mitolyn isn't a magic pill that suddenly makes you shed pounds while you sleep. But I had learned patience through my long, frustrating journey. I understood that real, sustainable change often unfolds gradually. However, around the second week, I started to notice small, yet significant shifts. My usual afternoon slump, that heavy, dragging feeling that often led me to reach for another cup of coffee or something sweet just to get through the afternoon, began to lessen. Instead of feeling completely drained by 3 p.m., I found myself maintaining focus and energy throughout the workday, even through those notoriously difficult late afternoon meetings that used to drag me down. By the end of the first month, the change in my energy levels was undeniable. I felt truly rested after a night's sleep, something that hadn't happened consistently in years. It was a profound difference, waking up feeling refreshed, rather than feeling like I needed another 3 hours of sleep. I had more stamina for my morning workouts, pushing myself a little harder, holding planks a little longer, and recovering a little faster than before. Even simple things, like tackling household chores, running multiple errands, or going for a long walk after dinner, felt less daunting and more enjoyable. I felt lighter, not just on the scale, but in my spirit. It was like a heavy cloak of fatigue had been lifted. Then came the physical changes, slow and steady, but incredibly profound. Around week 6, I started to notice my clothes fitting differently. It wasn't just that they were looser, they draped better, seemed to hang more elegantly. That irritating tightness around my waist when I zipped up my favorite jeans started to ease, and soon, I could fasten them without having to lie down on my bed by the end of 2 months. Those persistent love handles, the ones that had stubbornly clung to my sides for years, were visibly shrinking. I remember standing in front of my full-length mirror, turning from side to side, truly captivated by the change. And that stubborn lower belly fat, the one that had resisted every diet, every crunch, every desperate attempt, was finally starting to recede. It was like my body had finally unlocked its ability to burn fat from those deep, resistant stores. The feeling was exhilarating, a mixture of disbelief and immense relief. The numbers on the scale began to move consistently downwards, not in dramatic drops, but in a steady, sustainable trend that felt right. But more importantly, my body composition was shifting in a way I'd never experienced before. I could see more definition in my arms, my thighs, and my waist. My silhouette was leaner, more toned. It wasn't just weight loss. It was a transformation of my shape. My skin even seemed to have a healthier, more vibrant glow, a wonderful side benefit I hadn't anticipated, but gratefully welcomed. Around the 3-month mark, the changes were so undeniable that friends and family started to notice without me saying a word. "You look absolutely amazing, Sarah." "What's your secret?" they'd ask, their eyes wide with genuine curiosity. And I'd smile, feeling a profound, genuine joy that hadn't been present in my life for years. It wasn't just about how I looked, though that was a huge boost to my confidence. It was about how I felt. I was vibrant again, energetic, fully engaged in life. I rediscovered the joy of dressing up, of being spontaneous, of simply feeling comfortable and strong in my own skin. I started buying new clothes again, not to hide, but to celebrate my new shape. I even took a trip to the beach, something I had avoided for years, and for the first time in a long time, I wore a swimsuit with a sense of quiet confidence, not self-consciousness. This entire journey taught me that true transformation isn't always about brute force or endless deprivation. Sometimes, it's about understanding the intricate workings of our bodies and providing them with the right, targeted support. For me, the breakthrough came when I understood the critical role of mitochondria in metabolism and found Mitolyn to help revitalize those essential powerhouses within my cells. It was the missing piece that allowed all my other healthy habits to finally yield the results I had longed for. If you've been on a similar frustrating journey, if you're over 30 and feel like your metabolism just isn't what it used to be, and you're tired of battling stubborn fat without seeing real, lasting results, then I truly encourage you to explore Mitolyn. It's designed to help your body naturally boost its fat-burning potential by supporting healthy mitochondrial levels. It's a natural, carefully crafted solution that might just be the catalyst you need. It was the crucial turning point in my own journey to reclaim my energy, my confidence, and my best self. Don't give up on your body. Understand it, support it, and watch as it transforms. You deserve to feel amazing, inside and out.